What if his silence isn't a wall, but a bridge to something deeper? There are times when a man pulls away, not from a lack of feeling, but because a feeling has become too vast to articulate. Have you sensed it? The conversation slows, his focus turns inward, and a quiet space grows between you. This retreat often happens just as a true connection seems to be forming. In the framework of depth psychology, when an emotion is too potent for the conscious mind to process immediately, it often translates into quiet contemplation. This isn't a dismissal of you, it's a protective response to an internal shift he doesn't yet comprehend. A woman has resonated with a part of his inner world he seldom accesses, the realm of intuition and deep feeling that exists beyond his command. Many men are not taught the language of profound emotion. When a connection transcends the superficial and becomes soulful, his established internal order can falter. The part of him accustomed to command suddenly encounters an energy it cannot direct, a woman who stirs his essence, and his initial reaction is not to advance, but to pause and integrate. He may seem absent, yet you occupy his mind. He creates distance, yet he is acutely aware of your presence. He is quiet, yet within him, a profound dialogue between his heart and his head is underway. What you might perceive as detachment could very well be the first tremor of a significant emotional awakening. For authentic affection does not always arrive with grand declarations. Sometimes it arrives in the weight of a shared, meaningful quiet. His silence is not an empty space, but a listening one. A man experiencing real love rarely plunges in without hesitation. First, there is confusion, then a period of self-protection, and only after navigating this does he find the capacity to fully open. This is the dynamic tension between the conscious self and the deeper psyche, the struggle between our need for stability and the overwhelming power of a transformative connection. When a woman embodies a quality his spirit has unknowingly sought, his logical framework can temporarily stall. His need for space is not a cold shoulder, but a necessary effort to find his footing in the face of an unfamiliar emotional landscape. So, before concluding he is neglecting you, consider this. What if his quiet is not a rejection, but a different dialect of caring? In stepping back, he may be attempting to comprehend why a core part of his being is drawn to you, even if his conscious mind resists. The human heart connects not through reason alone, but through unseen echoes and symbolic understanding. And when a woman activates this resonance, this blend of serenity and depth, a man is irrevocably changed. He may retreat, but he cannot erase the impression. Men do not always withdraw from apathy. Sometimes they withdraw because you have disarmed their defenses. Part 2. The masculine psyche navigating deep feeling. When a man starts to experience something beyond mere attraction, his internal equilibrium can shift. He is often unprepared for a bond that requires emotional transparency. For much of his life, he may have been conditioned to manage, to strategize, to compartmentalize his inner world. But genuine connection disregards these walls. It arrives as an undercurrent that seeps through his foundations. Depth psychology suggests the modern male psyche often operates under the dominance of the rational ego, the part that seeks to analyze, categorize, and manage all experiences. But profound connection originates from a more intuitive place. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't adhere to a schedule. It simply emerges. And when it does, a man can feel an internal rift between his thinking mind and his feeling heart. His ego might caution him to maintain barriers, to avoid vulnerability. But his deeper self is pulled toward you by a force that feels archetypal and inevitable. These opposing impulses can create confusion, a sense of being stuck, and often lead to withdrawal. It isn't indifference, it is apprehension, fear of losing his autonomy, fear that you will see the vulnerability he hides. Because Even unspoken, a man who is deeply moved can fear that he will be inadequate for the woman who stirs such depth in him. This anxiety can manifest in inconsistent actions, delayed replies, periods of quiet, seeming unavailability. But behind this exterior, a significant internal process is unfolding. His conscious mind is striving to reassert order, while his essential self has already been touched. When a powerful emotion enters the psyche, a man must often recalibrate his inner world to accommodate it. This is why he might require moments of solitude before re-engaging. He cannot build a lasting connection from a place of internal disorder. He must find his footing again. You believe he is being distant? In reality, he may be trying to comprehend you not merely as a person, but as a symbol of something profound. You reflect his inner, feminine principle, the anima that resides within his unconscious. And when a man encounters this reflection in the outer world, he doesn't intellectually understand it. He only senses he is facing someone who sees him, unsettles him, and opens him. That is the root of his silence. Your presence has activated something within him. He is uncertain how to handle the feelings you evoke, but he is equally unable to dismiss them. And as his ego struggles, his soul begins to yield. Sometimes, his distance is not an ending, but the quiet beginning of his emotional surrender. The man who feels more than he can articulate will often step back right before he steps forward fully. Part 3. The inner pattern you awaken. It is said that within the male psyche exists a feminine image. The anima represents his capacity for relatedness, his intuition, his connection to the emotional and symbolic realms. But this energy typically lies dormant until it is called forth by an external encounter. When he meets you, his response isn't solely to your appearance or your words. He is reacting to something his unconscious recognizes as significant, even if it defies logic. Your essence touches archaic layers of his being, emotional imprints that operate on a level deeper than reason. This is why he might feel a sense of trepidation. He doesn't grasp why you affect him so powerfully without apparent cause. In psychological terms, a woman can constellate various archetypes in a man's inner world: the inspiration who sparks his creativity, the challenger who confronts his limitations, the sanctuary who offers peace, or the transformative partner who facilitates his growth. When one of these deep patterns is activated, he no longer perceives you as just another individual. He intuits an undeniable and fateful link. This isn't mysticism, but the power of symbolic recognition. Your gaze, the tone of your voice, your very stillness, can mirror a part of himself he had not previously encountered. And this reflection is so potent it disrupts his normal state. He feels drawn, certainly, but also a peculiar sense of destiny. This is why many men mistake a profound bond for internal turmoil. When the anima is engaged, his emotional landscape expands. He may become more perceptive, more empathetic, more open. And because this new territory is unfamiliar, he may respond with guardedness. He creates space, becomes reserved, or acts inconsistently. But beneath the surface, a metamorphosis is occurring. The man who truly falls in love isn't just making a choice. He is being introduced to a hidden part of his own nature. And you, often without intent, become the mirror revealing this new self to him. From a depth perspective, love is not merely a sentimental journey, but a process of psychological integration. When two people meet on this level, they don't just share affection, they see each other in both their light and their depth. And in this mutual recognition, he is permanently altered. When a woman touches a man's core, she doesn't just win his heart, she awakens his soul. Part 4. The apprehension of surrender. When a man begins to genuinely care, a resistance often surfaces, not against you, but against what your presence signifies, because you evoke in him an emotion that challenges his sense of control. And for the masculine ego, a loss of perceived control can feel like a loss of self. The rational self fears what it cannot categorize or manage. And deep emotional connection, the kind that demands authenticity, is one of the most unmanageable forces of the human experience. This is why many men pull away at the precise moment the connection becomes real, not from a lack of interest, but from a fear of being consumed by the intensity. Love is not a safe bet for someone who has navigated life primarily with his intellect. He can handle desire, he can manage routine, even companionship, but love confronts him with his own sensitivity, with his younger self, with his fundamental need to be truly known and accepted. And this exposure is terrifying. A quiet war is waged inside. His mind commands, maintain your position, but his soul murmurs, let go. This friction between holding on and releasing creates his unpredictable behavior. One day, he seeks you with intensity. The next, he vanishes without a word. This isn't mere inconsistency. It is the unconscious dance of the fear of intimacy. This could be called the ego's crisis before the soul's call. The instant a man intuits that a part of his old identity must dissolve for him to move forward, his self-reliance, his self-concept, his internal structure. But in truth, it is not his essence that dies, but an outgrown version of, to himself, the one who had not yet learned to love authentically. To be fully seen is to begin to transform. When he looks at you, he doesn't just see a partner, he sees the potential for true recognition, and that unravels him. Because to love is to be visible, and to be visible is to relinquish the armor. This is why, when a man who feels deeply creates distance, it isn't because you don't matter to him, it is because he senses he can no longer maintain his facade with you, and this realization is disorienting. Yet, there is a profound truth hidden in this fear. Only those who have been reached at their very core fear losing control. The love that frightens is not insignificant. It is overwhelmingly real. When the soul commits, the ego resists. Part 5. The signs of unrecognized attachment. When a man starts to develop deep feelings, he doesn't proclaim it. He doesn't voice it. Often, he doesn't even acknowledge it to himself. But his behavior, his attention, and his quiet moments reveal the truth. The soul, even in hiding, always leaves traces. The unconscious reveals itself in subtle behaviors, in unplanned gestures, in the contradictions the conscious mind cannot explain. And love, when it takes root in a man unaccustomed to such depth, creates a pull between two realities, the one that clings to the familiar and the one that is already being reshaped from within. This is the source of his contradictory conduct when he is falling without awareness. He finds reasons to connect but avoids true intimacy. He observes you but looks away when your eyes meet. He seems distracted but recalls a small detail you mentioned weeks ago. He discusses surface topics, but there is a new softness in his tone, and when you are gone, he may become more pensive, more subdued, more reflective. He doesn't grasp why your absence leaves such a void. It's not a big deal, he tells himself. This is where the inner conflict ignites. His ego works to rationalize what his soul has already accepted. This is the process of projection. When a man projects his own unconscious potential onto a woman, he falls in love not just with who you are, but with the latent parts of himself that you help him see. This is why he feels your connection is unique, impossible to replicate. He thinks of you even when he actively tries not to. He might claim, "I need some," but, in reality, he is struggling to understand why his feelings for you are so intimidating. He displays a combination of a desire to provide and a deep-seated emotional uncertainty. He wants to be your shelter, but he is afraid to be exposed. He longs to be near you, but he retreats into his own silence, and his physical presence changes. His breath may catch when you enter the room. His posture becomes more alert, His voice may drop to a softer register. He notices the smallest things about you, as if your very being is a text he is compelled to read. And even when he seems far away, there are flashes of raw openness. A spontaneous act of kindness, a gaze that holds for a second too long, a truth that slips out unexpectedly. These are the moments when his unconscious speaks, bypassing the ego's defenses. The man who falls without realizing it may never confess it, but his essential self has already made its choice. The unconscious never deceives. It only communicates in its own language. Part 6. How to navigate his emotional recalibration. The least effective approach is to try to solve him. This isn't about persuasion, proving your value, or filling his silence. Because the more you pursue, the deeper he retreats. And the more you pressure, the stronger his defenses become. The soul is not won through force, but through invitation. The same is true for a man's capacity to love. You cannot compel his feelings, but you can embody a presence that inspires. Your role is not to demand that he feel, but to remain anchored in your own center, in that energy of self-possession that does not seek external validation. Your true influence lies in your calm and assured presence. The moment he senses that you are not a threat to his autonomy, but a sanctuary for his authentic self, his defenses begin to lower. Love that asks for nothing is healing. Love that does not chase is magnetic. This is not aloofness, but emotional intelligence. Knowing the right moment to speak and the right moment to listen, when to move closer and when to allow the space to do its work. Because a woman's quiet confidence, which is not punitive but supportive, is one of the most compelling forces there is. A man who is truly connected to you cannot bear a permanent absence, but he may require moments of it to recognize your value, and you must permit him this process without becoming his therapist or his guide. Do not try to fix him. Do not try to teach him. Do not try to lead him. Simply be. Maintain your own energy without the fear of losing him, because what is truly meant for you will not ultimately depart. It will evolve to meet you. Any genuine bond requires room for the individuals to grow. So trust that your inner peace will be the reflection in which he recognizes what is missing in his own turmoil. Your stability will be the guide that shows him the path back without you ever having to leave your own core. Conscious connection is not a battle of wills. It is a collaborative dance. And in this dance, the most powerful move is sometimes knowing when to be still. The secret isn't in playing games, but in honoring the natural timing of things. Not from a place of fear, but from the understanding that something precious needs room to root and flourish. The woman who is secure in her own worth doesn't run after love. She becomes the destination. Part 7. Conclusion. If the quiet speaks of a budding connection, he may never articulate it with words. He might not text. He might not initiate. He might not look at you in the same way. But if you've genuinely reached his soul, that imprint remains, invisible yet enduring. True bonds do not break. They simply transition into different forms. In this light, silence is not always a full stop. Sometimes, it is the soul's native tongue when language falls short. The man who falls in love within a quiet space undergoes a fundamental change. He may appear distant, but internally, he is learning the true meaning of devotion without possession, without control, without pretense. He discovers that to love is not to dominate, but to offer oneself. And you, too, are transformed in this process, for his distance can teach you the value of your own wholeness. That pivotal stage where love ceases to be a need and becomes a conscious decision. You stop seeking external confirmation and start understanding that real strength isn't in being wanted, but in loving, without surrendering yourself. His entry into your life was not random. Every person who impacts us deeply activates something within, an old hurt, a hidden aspect, a dormant truth He arrived to reveal the power of your patience, the strength in your stillness, the allure of your mystery. And, even if he never realizes it, you served as his mirror. You showed him he was still capable of feeling, even when he believed that part of him was lost. Therefore, if you feel the urge to chase him, pause. Remember, love that originates from the soul requires no validation. If his feelings are genuine, he will find his way, not because you summoned him, but because his spirit remembers the way to yours. And if he does not return, you have lost nothing, because what you gave from a place of authenticity is never wasted. It is alchemized into wisdom, into magnetism, into your own light. Your essence will continue to echo in his unconscious, a soft reminder of what once opened him, a woman who didn't need to demand to be remembered. Real love does not force its way and needs no justification. If this perspective resonated with you and provided a new lens on connection, please support our community by liking this video and exploring more on the Winds of Thought channel.